Good morning, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing to you Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii. During the mad dash before the Wii U and 3DS eShop close, I decided let's get Donkey Kong Country Returns as my last huzzah. For several reasons, mainly because that was one of the games that was purged during my big financial crisis where I had to sell most of my video games. And also because while I've reviewed Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D on this channel, I don't have a 3DS capture card, and I really wanted to show footage of this game. So consider this more or less of a re-review of the older version. Now, just in case you want to know what the differences are, I'll just really quickly say that the 3DS version is probably the definitive edition, besides the fact that the graphics are slightly downgraded and it runs at only 30 frames instead of 60 frames per second. The 3DS version has an easy mode, which gives you more health and also more items to purchase in the shop. There's also some new levels, and it's easier to access the Golden Temple. That's about it. Now on to the game that we're actually talking about. Donkey Kong Country Returns was the first traditional Donkey Kong Country game since 1996's Donkey Kong Country 3. Not only was it a huge return to form, but it was also a new developer coming in, Retro Studios, which was previously known for their work on the Metroid Prime series. This also came a year after New Super Mario Bros. Wii, so I guess the reviving old platformers craze was in effect at this time. And while it's easy to make a comparison between the new Super Mario Bros. Games and Donkey Kong Country Returns, pretty much the only thing they share in common is that they're both platformers, but apart from that, the similarities more or less end. Donkey Kong controls very differently to Mario. He has a much heavier feel, he doesn't have the wall jump, which definitely accounted for a lot of my platforming errors. And some of his moves are more, I guess, aggressive. Like, he can roll, not very far when he's by himself, but that roll can break through certain barriers as well as defeat certain low-level enemies. He can pound the ground, which can be used to break certain objects, and it can also stun certain enemies. And he can blow, which involves crouching and shaking the Wii Remote. Yeah, not the game's brighter idea. They removed that entirely in Tropical Freeze. However, if you find a DK barrel and toss it, not only will your health be restored, but you'll get Diddy Kong as a partner that rides on Donkey Kong's back. This actually provides a boost to several of his abilities. Now when you roll, you can infinitely roll as long as you keep shaking the Wii Remote and you don't run into any solid objects or enemies that are immune to rolling. He can also use his jetpack to let Donkey Kong glide forward a few distances, or the jump correction of platformers such as the spin in Mario Wii and the spin jump in Mario Galaxy. And he also provides 2 extra hearts, although once those 2 extra hearts go, then Diddy Kong will retreat, and you'll have to play through as Donkey Kong until you find another DK barrel. This is a great risk-reward system because it truly feels like an amazing, game-changing power-up while not making you feel too overpowered. Now, just in case this game is still a bit too tough for you, even with Diddy Kong, Cranky Kong has a shop. Usually you have to unlock it on each world, but if worse comes to worse, you can just fast travel to another world. And you can use the coins that you've collected in the game to purchase helpful items. Now, there's not as many as in the 3DS version. There's extra balloons, which are your lives. There's a key, which opens the secret level in each world. There's squawks, which helps you look for the hidden puzzle pieces, which can be used to unlock additional goodies such as dioramas and trophies of the characters and enemies. But the biggest helpful item he sells are the extra heart container, which increases your life bar, and the banana juice, which gives you 10 hit points instead of just 2 or 4 if you have Diddy Kong. So it definitely could be better, but they improved on this in Tropical Freeze, so I guess they learned from the lessons of the 3DS version. That being said, the banana juice is really powerful. It makes Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong glow in this shining state of gold. And it even shows up in the cutscenes, which is really great. Speaking of cutscenes, this game has a whole new artistic style. In the original Donkey Kong Country game, since they were on the Super Nintendo, they had used pre-rendered 3D, which was amazing for the time, but if they were to release the game in that style nowadays, it wouldn't be as heralded now. So now it's more of a, I guess, more traditional 3D graphics approach, and it allows for the games to have a sense of spectacle that is sorely missing from the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Every level feels very distinct from one another, and the gimmicks never overstay their welcome, hardly ever repeating old concepts. Usually there's stuff going on in the background that affects the foreground. Sometimes you blast between the background and foreground, and the levels just have a very cinematic feel to them that almost feels like you're playing through a movie. Now, they're not as good as those in Tropical Freeze, but they're pretty darn close. One of the things that's a bit frustrating about Donkey Kong Country Returns, though, is when it puts you inside the vehicle levels, such as rocket barrels and minecarts. These sections are more or less automated and feature some of the best visual storytelling the game has to offer, but at the same time you die in one hit if you run into something during these levels, and no item in the shop can protect you, not even the banana juice. So I found that these were pretty darn frustrating, especially if you're going for all of the collectibles. In this particular run of the game, I decided that I was only going to focus on just getting to the end of the levels and not trying to get any of the collectibles, and as a result, I managed to breeze through these sections much more quickly than I would have done before, or maybe I've just gotten better through Tropical Freeze. But I found that they weren't as nail-bitingly difficult as they were before, although I definitely appreciate the 3DS version for offering the Crash Guard ability. Overall, I liked the rocket barrel and minecart levels. I just wish it wasn't so steep where you get hit once and you have to start over, although at least there's checkpoints. One thing that might be a bit annoying about the checkpoints is that after you've died a certain amount of times, then the tutorial pig, otherwise known as Professor Chops, will give you the ability to play as Super Kong, where a white Donkey Kong will play the level for you. Now, you can opt out of Super Kong at any time and take over control yourself, but I just find that I wish there was an option to turn this off, as it kind of comes across as the game saying, "You stink!" And there's no way to tell the game, like, "Shut up, I'm just having trouble. It's a hard game by nature, sheesh." Thankfully, in this most recent playthrough, again, doing the minimalist route, I only managed to make the pig appear twice in all of the levels I did, because one of my biggest complaints was that the pig appeared usually when I was trying to get the collectibles, and the tutorial pig doesn't pick up any of the collectibles when you activate him, so it's almost like it defeats its own purpose for being there. So taking the minimalist route definitely prevented the game from trying to hold my hand so much. Thankfully, they removed this in Tropical Freeze, thank goodness. Overall, I find that Donkey Kong Country Returns this time around was a tough game, but not unreasonably tough. Most of the time you can see what's going on ahead of you, and the few times that you can't, you just have to be more patient. And I found that the game's music and controls were overall done really well. I like how you can use both a Wii Remote and a nunchuck, or just the Wii Remote on its side. The music is overall pretty good, the graphics are amazing, and it feels like an absolutely wonderful platformer. The only real downsides were the lack of hearts on the minecart levels, and sometimes shaking the Wii Remote to make Donkey Kong roll wouldn't be very precise. Maybe that's just the fault of me playing on the gamepad alone, but I definitely felt like there were a few jumps that I probably would have made if it had been mapped to more traditional buttons. If I had to choose between this game and Tropical Freeze is a no-brainer. It's so much better, and it gives you the option to play with traditional buttons. However, I do think that if you could only pick one game, either one of them is going to be great. Just be prepared for some far-reaching jumps that are going to require you to shake the Wii remote a little bit. So with that, thank you very much for watching. Let me know down in the comments if there's anything I missed and what you think about the video. Special thanks to my patrons, Matthew Rakowski, Sploon Ghost, and eventually Splatcat once she sorts out her bank issue, for helping me out financially during this time. The link will be in the description if you'd like to join. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye!